Hello and welcome to my channel. My name is Peter Abraham. I'm a registered nurse working towards being a death doula. My experience in nursing is cardiology, medical surgical, long-term care, and extensively hospice and palliative care. If you're new to this channel, welcome. Thank you for visiting. Uh, Hopefully you'll like what you're seeing and listening to and will subscribe. In this channel, we talk about death and dying, chronic illnesses that become terminal illness, being a hospice nurse, both my own experiences and advice that I hope to empower my fellow hospice nurses with. I'm also an holistic nurse, so sometimes we'll have discussions on holistic nursing. Holistic nursing is just a way, if you're not familiar with that term, of not everything is a pharmacology agent. There's other ways to heal the body, mind, body, and soul. And also talk about caregiver issues, anticipatory grief before you lose somebody, and the actual grief occurs, they're both grief, the grief that occurs after you lose somebody. I am also a prolific, relatively new book author. These are just some of my work. And so there are times I'll publish videos going over, here's an overview of a book that I'm currently working on or maybe just recently published. And here are some tips and tricks for using Canva. I'm a big advocate for Canva. I have the pro version. I'm not like an affiliate, so you subscribe. I don't receive anything from Canva, but I really appreciate what they have as a package to help book authors and creative people express themselves in meaningful ways. So today's topic, we're going to be discussing the continued journey on my own of becoming a death doula. Now, I've been a death doula we're talking business structure, so I'm going to go over that in a moment where I've been. But before I go there, I try to put into practice what I preach. When I say I lead by example, I don't ever try to be like arrogant, like I'm a great leader or that I'm a fantastic writer or I'm great at anything that I do. But when I say lead by example, I want to be out there on the forefront. So that's why back when COVID came to America in our short staff nursing home, I took a break from hospice. They asked, I'm not sure why they asked, because to me, they should have just said, it's your job, do it. But they asked for volunteers among several score of nursing and CNAs, and three nurses, myself included, and one CNA raised our hand. And so to me, that was leading by example, not that I knew a lot of what we were doing. That was all brand new experience to us. So part of leading by example for here, just getting to the point, is I'm a strong believer in building up resilience. For any of you who are a death doula or looking into it, maybe looking to be a nurse or a hospice nurse, resilience matters. I'm going to be working with Julie Atkinson. She's a registered nurse turned author. She is far more well known than I am on a virtual summit uh, in mid-May. In fact, I have a scheduled interview with her this coming Monday afternoon. And my topic is going to be, how do you stay in the nursing career when you're slam, 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 and you're dealing with a lot of stuff? Most people don't realize what we go through, both from the physical violence end towards us, but it's been increasing. And I don't want to go too in depth, but to build resilience, there's several parts. One of my, a nursing colleague, I don't want to say one of mine because I have not yet made that connection for me to feel comfortable to say like we're even acquaintances, but she talks about forgiveness. That's very important. I do believe that's important, but I also believe in gratitude. What are you grateful for? So I have shared that the last couple episodes, and I'm going to go over real quick. I did get my author copies. I have the Hospice Tools of the Trade. This is literally meant to make photocopies of different pages to keep in your clipboard. The hospice clinical pharmacology, looking at how pharmacology changes in the last 6 months in terms of our body systems, our organs failing and not being as healthy. So that impacts what we as nurses should be recommending to the doctor, adjusting the doses, being very careful of. Giving an example, a person posted, and I can't give medical advice, so that's even this example is the fine print disclaimer. I can't give medical advice via social media. I have to have that nurse-patient relationship that you can't have this way. But I can say, talk to your hospice nurse about that to see if they can give you a recommendation. But excuse me, somebody came and said, you know, uh, why can't their hospice provide a diuretic, and they have liver failure. So here there's three primary diuretics. Furosemide, that's more well known, that's cleared renally through your kidneys. Torsemide, and I always kill the generic form, so I'll just say Bumex. The latter two have liver involvement. And then there's also not a direct, some of the medications out there indirectly lower blood pressure. For example, morphine given for pain. I'm not saying give morphine to lower blood pressure, but morphine lowers blood pressure. But spironolactone, for example, is a blood pressure medication, also retains potassium. You have to be a little bit careful about that depending on kidney involvement. But also is a lighter diuretic. So depending on what the case is, I said, here, talk to your nurse. I don't know, I don't have your complete medical record, but here's stuff to consider. And that's the meat of what this goes into, is just lots of case studies, lots of different examples, going over some main medication classes for the last 6 months of life. And then my friend, Ed Braddock, um, deeply love the guy. He's a hospice nurse out in Texas who knows pathophysiology far better than probably this book that I wrote. But this is to help hospice nurses understand the pathophysiology changes in the last 6 months. So I'm grateful for that. And I'm grateful for what I'm going to be sharing today, which is I'm getting into the topic. What are you grateful for? Now I'm getting into the meat. So yesterday, two major things happened in terms of my journey to become a death doula. I strongly believe in practicing what you preach. If you say you believe in something, live it. If you say you believe in something, act on it. That's very important. I am going to go down a minor rabbit trail, and if you hear this and you're sensitive to the subject, I'm not trying to tick you off on on purpose. Climate change. If the people reporting this are taking private jets that produce more carbon emission than scores and dozens and hundreds of cars, if they're not practicing what they're preaching, and I'll stop there. So, practicing what I'm preaching. Laura and I met yesterday with an elder law attorney. We're looking at our own mortality. We're looking at our own advanced planning, which go above and beyond. And I'm going to go and dig. And thankfully, I do have it right at the top. Yes, you have your 5 wishes, your living will, last will and testimony. But you also, all of you watching, especially if you are getting up there in years, and don't wait until there's a tragedy. But let's say you have a partner. You have somebody that you're a partner. I'm going to just use neutral language. This is a non-judgmental channel. I care about each and every one of you. You have a partner, and you have property. Could be a trailer, could be a home, could be a car. I don't know what you call your property. And you want to care for your loved one as long as you're able at your property. You want to do everything that you can. But some families, and Laura and I went through this ourselves, sometimes you have to make those unbelievably difficult decisions of, I did my best. I can't do this anymore. I hate the idea of going, taking my loved one in assisted living or skilled nursing or memory care, or I don't know. I just can't do this alone anymore. And you're facing that hard choice that not a single person should ever judge you on. How do you go about doing that where you're not told by the state you have to spend everything down, that you're penniless? I still remember when I was in nursing school, I spent my summers as both a med tech and a personal care assistant at a very impoverished, my words, personal care home. Uh, it was known for that when I was living in Lancaster County, PA. And I became friends. I like giving living examples because we live in a real world. So I became friends with Miss Sylvia. I'm smiling because when I was asked to take her back to her room, and I went to tell her, I'm saying, this is just after serving dinner. It was every other duty's assigned. So, like, med tech for 64 residents. So you're not just passing meds and hunting them down because they were mobile, and some in wheelchair and so on. These were not bedbound patients unless they were in their last days. But Miss Sylvia was walker wheelchair. And so when I went up to her and said, they asked me to take you back to your room, she looks up to me and she says, "Are you safe?" Wow, that's a deep question. It's short, but that's a very deep question. And I'm an introvert. I could be extremely shy if I'm stressed, like hiding behind curtains, shy, sometimes foolishly, because people can like see the shape. Um, I I've had managers say if they say boo, I'm on the ceiling. I'm just being vulnerable with you right now. And I'm socially awkward. I've been told I have undiagnosed autism. Um, so I said, Sylvia, I don't know uh, how to answer that question. And it's a very related side note, just being very vulnerable. One of these days, I'm going to write a science, I guess you can call it a science fiction, science fantasy book. And I vicariously live as the main uh, person in this book. And one of the parties in this book is threatening my life with the question of, are you good or evil? And I answered that. In all honesty, I'm basically evil. Not that I'm evil, I'm not talking Satan, but without preaching to you, my biblical understanding is only God is good. Jesus replied, "Who are you to call me good? Only God is good." So that to me means all humans are basically evil. And again, you can skip ahead if you don't like this part, just a few seconds. So that's why for me to be very transparent when Sylvia asks this question, or am I safe? I can, somebody can say I'm anything, but I never want to mislead anybody. And while I wouldn't intend harm, I don't know what she means. So I want to be honest completely. So I don't know what you mean. She goes, have, have you seen anyone naked? And here internally, I'm a nursing student at this time. So I'm supposed to be okay seeing people naked. it's not sexual, but it's like I was raised by my grandmother. So I am very modest. And so I was like, uh, only my wife, which was the truth, um, you're safe. And so ever since then, and I took her back, we became friends. So she was on hospice. I didn't know that until later that day when I took her back and helped her. She went to bed really early, like right after dinner early. Um, but we became friends, and I would visit her in the hospital when she had exacerbations, and would be in the hospital. And it was so rewarding. So those of you who are going down the field of whether you're a hospice volunteer now, you're a death doula, I cannot tell you, I am more rewarded from those experiences than whatever I gave. So before I go too far into this, um, let me get to the point with Sylvia. So Sylvia would share with me that she cared for her husband, and he went into the best skilled facility. He had the best of the best of the best, and then he died. And she could not afford the best of the best. She could not afford the medium. She said the least of what was available, that was her place. Now, for those of you who have a vivid imagination, this personal care home was not what you would have in a horror movie. It did not reek of urine. There was not feces on the wall. There was not mold or mildew that I can see or remember. It was just a very, very old building that was a motel that was converted into a personal care home, and minimal staffing, minimal supplies, and everybody that was worked there. And I'm not complaining. I felt that it was okay for me to get paid about minimum wage or maybe slightly more. It was good learning. But I did not, Laura and I don't want to put each other into that situation where, we've worked so hard all of our lives that if we are put to the limit, we don't want to have the other person have to sell this house and be forced into poverty or below poverty level. Especially what happens when it's their turn. They won't have anyone to care for them. Their spot, like if it was, if I go first, uh, Laura won't have anybody at that time. If she goes first, I wouldn't have any. So as I'm sharing this with you, I'm not giving legal, financial, or this type of advice, but most states have what's called a 5-year look back. And then there's other portions. So like when we met with the elder law attorney, it's actually, if you want to be as safe as possible, you're looking at a 7-year window, not just 5. A 7-year window, not just 5. And so, we are looking at, an irrevocable trust. And so we were getting information what that would look like and how you could start that off by just putting in property and your Roth IRA, Roth type financial products. But I encourage you, if you're looking at being a death doula, practice what you're going to be teaching your clients. And even if you're not a death doula, talk to an elder law attorney. They're a different breed of attorneys because every state is different, and they look at what's the best type of I should say, legal vehicle to protect your assets, um, and work through that. So we're looking at moving forward with that. and working through that one day at a time. But we also met with, and this is the main topic of this video, so thank you so much for your patience. We also met with, and I cannot speak highly enough of the small business development community in this area. Donna, thank you so much. I went to that workshop a couple Thursdays ago, and one of the benefits I didn't even know in advance of going to that is we got a free 1 hour consultation with a local tax advisor, and that we met yesterday, looking at, and I just have my notes handy here. What does that picture look like? I am going to go over what we discussed, but I'm also going to go over the main routes that most people take. And for the thumbnail for this video, I presented side by side, left and right, what the main routes most people take. I'm looking at a third route that I am going to disclose in this video in pure transparency. So the very first route, that is the most common route that people take, with the understanding this is not tax, legal, or financial advice, is they're a sole proprietor. And to be a sole proprietor, there's not a lot to do. The fine print, do check locally, your local city, town, your county, your state. Do you have to file, register? Do you have to have a separate EIN, which is a tax identification number using your social security number? You have to research what's required locally for all of what we're discussing today, not just sole proprietorship. But sole proprietorship is basically everything is under your name, which means you're liable for any and all things. Most people go this route because you don't have to, even if you do have to file some paperwork, you do it yourself most of the time. It's low cost or it's free, but there's no legal protection whatsoever. And that's the route most people take, especially their first year, and especially if they're 50,000 or less, 60,000 or less, they're going down that route. And since most death doulas, when they start off, and I'm not telling you what to charge, but we will have a future video of average pricing, but a lot of death doulas will start off charging 25 to 50 an hour. They'll create packages around that, so they might create in their mind, okay, this is going to take 2 to 4 hours, and I'm going to base it on their rate, and then tell the consumer, well, this is a $100 package, not saying the consumer it's 4 hours. You just say, this is my $100 package, or this is that package. So, but you charge, there's Social Security, there's Medicare, and other things. Again, talk to your tax accountant. But then the second business structure that is the second most common, and this is typically done after a year, you can do it sooner, like right when you're starting, is a limited liability corporation. As it implies, it provides more liability protection. And part of the key for that, and that's why you talk to your tax accountant your local, or you do this with online agents. I cannot endorse one 100%, but from doing my own research, if I was going to do online, Northwest registered agents is the most economical from the perspective that it's most a la carte. Your other ones like LegalZoom and all these other ones may appear, wow, they're free for this, but the moment you get into that, what you really need, they force you to go, well, it's between free and $200. Where Northwest, it's 39, and then everything else is pure a la carte. And so take it for there. But with one of the things that you need to look into is they'll talk about piercing the corporate veil. So limited liability corporations, a form of corporation, so it does apply when you talk about piercing the veil. And that's if you intermingle, you create your LLC, but you're still writing checks out of your personal checking account, and you're still pulling out your personal credit card. you're endangering that liability. You're almost acting like a sole proprietor. In fact, you are acting like a sole proprietorship. So you have to watch, even if you like have that, if you're a limited liability corporation, you have that checking account, but then you're not, sometimes you have to sign it a certain way. Any of you have been a power of attorney, you know, because you're putting in your name in power of attorney. So there are ways. So again, your tax account will walk you through that. So all of that, you have state filing fees. Now, yesterday, for some of you already know, I am writing a book on how to become a death doula and, keywords, and start your own practice. So in the book, I just finished a draft of chapter 7. I have the topic of today. And I go into, as part of this book, as current as of yesterday, here's the state filing fees. For example, in Kentucky, it's $40 for a limited liability corporation. Some states it might be 10, some states it might be 200. And fine print that I do put in the book, and I'm telling you now, you might go, like some people say, well, I'm going to incorporate in Delaware, I'm going to incorporate in Nevada. And I've watched this YouTube video, if I incorporate in, do the LLC in Wyoming. Again, keeping in mind, this is not legal financial tax advice. For some, there are times your best protection from a big perspective is do it in the state you reside. And sometimes when you're looking at a big picture, you're not just looking at what's going to give you the most legal protection, but if you're looking at how do I build trust. Now you can talk to your families. Well, I went to Wyoming Trust because they protect my privacy, and I'm a very private person. And some people, some of your patients and families may understand that. But if you are not able to get it vulnerable enough, they may be asking themselves, "Why should I trust you?" The reason that this is a good question and a very important topic, because we mentioned that death doulas complement, we're synergistic with hospice providers. Well, a hospice provider is an agency. Not saying that one nurse can't start a hospice agency, but the government requires you have to have a social worker, granted they can be 1099, a chaplain, 1099, a medical director, and so on. But you're typically an interdisciplinary team, multiple people. Most death doulas operate one. And maybe over time they're grouping together, and that's why another reason they may go LLC route. But you're starting off just you, yourself, and you. That's why some people have shared with me, Peter, I'm starting off with a death doula in my families. Are you certified? Even though there's no governing body, and even though the school, like the certification doesn't mean what you think it means. And I'm not trying to cut down, don't get certified. It just doesn't mean what most people think it means. Like my RN license, my PA's back there. I'm getting a plate for my Kentucky license, but that license has meaning because the governing body and the same basic knowledge for everybody. Before I go down that rabbit trail, so here, if you're so hidden, like I got a Wyoming, LLC, but I'm practicing in Kentucky, where there's a lot of and I'm not belittling rednecks. There's pickup truck. We're told we have to get a pickup truck in order to live in Kentucky. And I'm not kidding. We're not getting a pickup truck, but you have to think of those considerations. So those are the most common business structures. But and I'm going to put in the description below the text from the thumbnail where I give you the side by side. It won't be in a table just because of limitations of HTML in the link. But I'm going to go down the route that I'm looking at. It's and when I say that it's a harder route, I'm not saying that to like, oh, look at Peter. I'm saying that from the perspective that it's a harder route from a financial personal decision. and but it's a route that I'm strongly considering, and that is the route of being a nonprofit. So, and part of the discussion, Kentucky is one of the few states, and this is not why we moved to Kentucky, but Kentucky is one of the few states that you could have an LLC be a nonprofit. Most states, you have to be a corporation. Now, the fine print for that is after talking to the tax advisor, he said, don't go down the LLC nonprofit route in Kentucky, because even though it looks good on paper from a lower cost perspective, there's too much landmines and fine print that most people that go down that route find themselves in a mess a year or two down the road. So he said start off with the 501c3 corporation nonprofit. And with that, it is more difficult from the perspective, and I'm going to, before I get into the financial, your LLC could be a single member, you, yourself, and you. Your LLC could be a two-member, and I strongly, if those of you who have partners, it's Laura and I, partners, those of you who have partners, consider including them as a non-participating, you're the manager member, they're a member. Because that gives you the ability to, again, fine print, not financial, legal, tax advice, but you could potentially involve them in draws, compensation down the road. And with the LLC, you can get it taxed as a sole proprietorship / LLC or S Corp or C Corp. Talk about that with your tax accountant. But here, with the charity nonprofit, you need a minimum of 3 members. 2 can be family, and that does raise eyebrows. We were told there's a potential that if it's just my wife and I and another member, depending on how we run the minutes, and if I'm the only person compensated out of the members, we may need a 4th. But you need at least 3 members. I did mention 4, but at least 3. There's a higher upfront cost, and I double checked our conversation when I got home later yesterday. So the IRS looks at it from 2 different angles. If you're a small 501c3, which means you are anticipating yearly revenues for the first 3 years of $50,000 a year or less. So by 50,000 or less, year 1, 50,000 or less, year 2, 50,000 or less, year 3, it's a $275 fee with the IRS to file. This is after you form the nonprofit. You form the nonprofit, and you're basically asking permission to the government. I need this 501c3. If you're going to be doing over 50, and this could even look at your first year under than 50,000, your second year under 50, your third year explode, or any portion thereof, it's $600 for the IRS. So there's that, plus the fee to the tax advisor. So here, we were quoted, they're going to do $500 for all their work for getting us formed. That does include the EIN, tax identification number, all the state fees, and so on. Side note for comparative, Northwest registered agents would be far less than the $500, but I do believe in supporting local. And the whole idea of nonprofit is I want to support the people local to me. And so that even though $500, Laura and I are not anywhere near wealthy or what I would refer to as rich, I'm thankful to God for what we have, but it's not like, anyway, I don't want to go down that rabbit trail. So there's a lot more involved. And then there's also the annual fees, where at least locally, for this company, they would be looking at $300 annual, to maintain the LLC. Uh, I mean, the nonprofit 501c3. So there's a lot more cost involved. So you might ask the very valid question, Peter, why go down this route? If most death doulas start off sole proprietorship for about a year, then they become an LLC. Some of them become an LLC, and they'll even do the tax route, for the first year as a sole proprietorship LLC, but taxed as a sole proprietorship, and then they'll go S corp. S corp's the most tax preferred. Again, not tax advice. Uh, Once they're making 50 grand or more, why would you go non-profit if it's that intense? And the reason being is, and I'm sure a lot of death doulas may feel this way, I want to be able to offer income-based pricing. I want to be able to have a family go, I can even look at that income-based pricing. I just don't think I can afford you. And if I see their situation and I know that I can offer the support, I don't want them dying alone. Or maybe they're not alone, but their support system is horrendous. And maybe, God willing, I can help. And I want to be able to offer that freely. Now, I wish we lived in the world of no fine print. Yes, I could do that as a sole proprietorship, and I can do that as an LLC and just not charge them. But by doing it as a nonprofit, that means I can accept donations and give receipts that they could deduct from their taxes. It means that my wife and I, and we do tithe and donate on a very regular basis. We rotate between three. We picked, I think it's 12 different charities here locally in Kentucky, and every month we have one steady, our local church, and then we pick two others that we rotate. But we could also include this. And I know that there's going to be the devil. You're doing this to pay yourself. Anyone who knows me, uh, no. This is to be able to, the gas, the gift that I might buy for them, I might gift them a book. I might buy them a cup of coffee, or they may say, and I don't smoke, I hate smoking, but I might buy them their last pack of cigarettes. I don't I don't want to be hindered by the financial aspect. From that aspect, I am doing it from a greedy perspective because I don't want to be hindered by it. I want to be able to do this uh, without consideration of what I will get paid. I want to do this with the consideration that I can accept donations, that if there's, I'm going to be doing free workshops and seminars, and if somebody comes up and says, Peter, I want to donate to your organization, and that helps several families, I don't want to be stopped by government regulations that I couldn't do it. Or if I get penalized, just so you know, again, fine print, you wouldn't be able to accept it as a donation if you're not a nonprofit. You could accept it, but it would be income that you're taxed on, that you're giving it away. And which to me is like getting taxed on, you're like double, it's whammy taxed. They paid taxes on what they're giving you to help others. Why should I pay taxes on what they gave me that they've already paid and I'm giving it all away? So if as a nonprofit, if they give me 500 and I give 500, I'm not just saying handing out money, but if I give $500 worth of service to somebody else where I net zero, uh, fine. So I'm trying to watch the time. I'm looking at the clock because I have my own alarm going off shortly on here. Let me just temporarily shut it off for right now. But So I'm going down the route of 501c3. I don't know where God is taking this. I do want to look at the opportunity of what if I work with other death doulas and can bring them in locally in Kentucky? There's already one or two in Lexington. Maybe we group together, and I don't know what the future holds, but I feel that this provides the best venue. Where I'm going to head towards the landing strip of the end, my tax advisor did say that the best of both worlds, and I'm considering this, is you have the nonprofit 5013C, and that's your death doula operation. And then you have a separate LLC, and that could be me or me and Laura, though Laura will be non-practicing. That's her desire. Um, where I'm the actual death doula that's going to be certified in the not too distant future. And then basically the nonprofit contracts with me to provide the service. And I know I've put through that, not legal tax financial advice, but let's say the nonprofit says we're doing 25 an hour and they get to 25 or the donation thereof. And then I get paid a portion of that through the 1099, and they do it that way. And because it's a 1099, they don't have to hire me to pay payroll taxes. And even though same boat, they could still, like if I didn't do the LLC, they could still do a 1099 to me. It's just it offers more protection. In last item, we're almost landed. I don't worry about this as much because I have malpractice insurance as a registered nurse. NSO is the number one go-to out there. I'm not an affiliate. But he did say, if you do bring in other death doulas or non-medical professional, look at general liability protection. For those of you who are going down the route, and this is the portion that's not going to be in the book, or I haven't thought of it yet to put in the book, because this is too murky water. Because again, I rather don't want to get into it's like half the chapter is this is not legal or financial advice. The world we live in, but general liability protection. So talk to insurance agents. What do you need? Because you don't want to be doing all this and a family sues you, and even though you have the LLC and everything else, you're out of business. You don't want that. So, but here he said, our tax advisor saying, you had the nonprofit on this side, and you have your LLC here. Well, you can't. It's not that you won't be sued at all. You're just really sheltering your own personal life more and more and more. Not sure how that'll work. I'm strongly considering the nonprofit route. We'll see how that goes. Today's May 1st. uh, we'll see how that goes as we walk this walk, and I'm sharing our journey with you. If you have any questions, I am an expert of almost nothing, but I love helping. I love telling people, here are my thoughts. Throw them out. You're not offending me. It's very hard to offend me. Ask if I can help you. I'll do my best to help you freely. Freely. Ask, comment. God bless, and thank you.